All right, for our Facebook audience, welcome. I want to do a quick sound check on Facebook Live. If you can hear my voice, please type L and C. Just type LC in the chat area. Also, for those of you that are on the webinar, if you can hear my voice, type LC so we know we have good sound. Thank you so much. We'll go ahead and begin.
Welcome to the Senior NCO Evaluation Board webinar, streaming from beautiful San Antonio, Texas. I am Captain Israel Brito, along with Captain Joel Allen. We are recorders here at the Selection Board Secretariat, also known as the Promotion Board. We also have in attendance Senior Master Sergeant Xiomara Pineda from Enlisted Promotions. This webinar was developed to provide insight on what happens in the Promotion Board. We believe if we are transparent, all airmen will be confident that they can compete fairly in the promotion process and can focus on what's important in our Air Force, to fly, fight, and win. This year alone, we have executed 139 boards for the promotions to the rank of Major through Major General, and boards for promotions for Master Sergeant through Chief Master Sergeant. We utilized the services of 111 General Officers, 164 Colonels, and 110 Chief Master Sergeants as board members. They have evaluated over 55,000 records, and we still have boards left this year. Here is a brief overview of the topics we will discuss today. We are a 14-member team comprised of officers, enlisted, and civilians. Our promotion board chief is a colonel, and the chief of operations is a lieutenant colonel. We have two branches run by our very knowledgeable Air Force civilians who have over 50 years of boardroom experience. The board support branch handles all operations while board is in session. These guys are really the wizards behind the curtain. The special boards branch manages all officer special selection boards. This process for officers is similar to the Senior NCO Supplemental Board process, which we will discuss later. Our technicians are two NCOs who assist with numerous daily administrative needs of the board members and staff. Finally, our certified recorders manage all boards from cradle to grave, from working with all members of board prior to their arrival to assisting the Enlisted Promotions Office as they outbrief results to the AFPC commander. The selection process contains two phases. First, a computer evaluation captures the objective factors, such as exams and decorations. And then, of course, the Central Evaluation Board provides the subjective factor. Let's take a closer look at these two phases. Using the calendar year 18 Master Sergeant Board as an example, Phase 1 consists of objective factors, commonly noted as weighted factors, and makes up approximately 33% of the total possible score. Each factor is weighted and has a maximum point total as shown. Members may earn up to 200 points for the PFE and SKT exams. A maximum of 25 points can be earned for decorations. For example, 5 points for a Meritorious Service Medal, 3 points for an Air Force Commendation Medal, and 1 point for an Air Force Achievement Medal. Now let's take a look at Phase 2. Phase 2 is the board score, which is where the boardroom comes into play. Using the 6 to 10 point scale on the left, and with 3 board members scoring, scores total vary from 18 to 30 points. Multiply that by the weighted factor of 15, and members earn a total board score between 270 to 450 points, as shown on the right. I'll explain this in the top right. In the top red box, there are 3 board members who gave the minimum amount of 6 points for each record. Board member 1 scored 6 points, board member 2 scored 6 points, board member 3 scored 6 points, giving the member 18 points. We multiplied that by 15, and the member received the lowest possible score of 270. In the bottom box, the maximum allowable points, the member received 10 points. 10 from board member 1, 10 from board member 2, and 10 from board member 3, giving you 30 points total, the maximum score. Multiply that by 15, and the member received 450 total points. The Enlisted Promotions Office then combines the weighted factors and the board score to produce a total score. These total scores form an order of merit, to which the Air Force applies the quota or percentage to generate the select list. Important note from the info on the slide, the board score for the Master Sergeant Evaluation Board accounts for nearly 67% of the total score. It is also important to note that board members will not know what an individual's objective score is. They must simply score the record on its own merit without benefit of that information. For the Senior Master Sergeant and Chief Master Sergeant Evaluation Board, the supervisory exam replaces the PFE and SKT objective factors, and the maximum allowable points are 125 in Phase 1. The maximum score for promotion to E8 and E9 is 575 points. For these boards, the board score accounts for nearly 78% of the total score. Now let's talk about our authority to conduct the board. Enlisted force management is guided by law, while enlisted boards are guided by Air Force policy. While in board, we work directly for the Chief of Staff. Title 10, Section 517 of the United States Code specifies that only 2.5% of the enlisted force can serve in grades of E8 and 1.25% to E9. Title 37, Section 201 of the United States Code specifies that an enlisted member cannot be placed into an E8 pay grade until completion of 8 years of enlisted service. Air Force policy expands this requirement into 11 years of service. DoD Instruction 1320.14 provides guidance on the Commissioned Officer Promotion Program, and we derive our procedures on communication rules for enlisted evaluation boards from this instruction. AFI 362502, Airman Promotion-Demotion Programs, provides policy guidance on enlisted evaluation boards. Additional guidance is provided by the Chief of Staff of the Air Force's formal charge. The most central stakeholder is the Chief of Staff of the Air Force. Under his authority, we convene all senior NCO evaluation boards. He also furnishes written guidance and instructions to the board in the form of a formal charge. Each board is provided guidance through the Chief of Staff's formal charge. Each formal charge is unique and based upon Air Force needs for that specific board. Items normally included are Air Force institutional values, the whole person concept, and highlights of any new changes to the enlisted evaluation system. Previous Chief of Staff of the Air Force's formal charge can be found easily on MyPERS by searching formal charge under Active Duty Air Force Enlisted in the search bar. Air Force policy dictates that the board president will always be a general officer who is a non-voting, non-scoring member of the board. The board president is the Chief of Staff of the Air Force's designated representative and is responsible to oversee the board members and the staff. We use one colonel with group command experience and 2 chief master sergeants to form what we call a panel. Air Force policy dictates that we reflect the eligible population as closely as possible in the following categories: race, ethnicity, and gender, command of assignment, and career area. For example, if 20% of the eligibles come from Air Combat Command, then 20% of board members, or as close as possible, will as well. While boards are in session, we work directly for the Chief of Staff under the supervision of the board president. And because of the enormous workload, we use a panel concept. Here is the panel construct for the calendar year 18 Master Sergeant Board. We spread over 23,000 records between 14 panels, consisting of 1 colonel and 2 chief master sergeants. For example, a typical support panel would have 1 mission support group commander and 2 mission support chief enlisted managers. Also, the largest AFSCs within each career area will garner a board member. For example, first sergeants comprise a large portion of the overall support career area, so a board member with a first sergeant AFSC is requested. As stated previously, we also mirrored the board membership based upon the eligible population in terms of minorities, women, and command of assignment to ensure a broad range of experience, leadership, and functional expertise. Since you are unable to enter the boardroom today, we thought we might bring the boardroom to you. Let's put you in the seat of a board member. As you can see from the photo, the panels are broken up into groups of 3. The desks have the capability to raise and lower for comfort, and the computers have touchscreens if the board members wish to use that feature. Our goal in the boardroom is to ensure we are compliant with all laws, instructions, and regulations, but also to ensure that board members are comfortable and confident when scoring records of our future Air Force leaders. Senior NCO evaluation board sessions vary in length depending on the number of records being scored. The Master Sergeant board is 4 weeks long. The Senior Master Sergeant board is 3 weeks long. The Chiefs board is 2 weeks long. And our Senior NCO supplemental boards typically last 1 to 2 weeks. On the first day of the board, the AFPC commander provides welcoming comments to our board members. After the AFPC commander comments, the board chief and lead recorder for that board present our first day briefing, similar to the one you are hearing now. The board president also provides comments and then reads the chief of staff's formal charge verbatim. Oaths are administered to both the board members and the selection board secretariat team to swear or affirm they will be fair and unbiased during the board. Our next step is to familiarize the board members with the Electronic Board Operations Support System, or EBOS. This is the primary tool they will use to review and score records. Please note the scoring scale at the bottom of the screen. We will discuss this scale in more detail later on in the briefing. As you can see, we have organized each individual's records into 3 sections, which we call stacks. This is a holdover term from paper records. Let's discuss these 3 stacks. In the left stack, board members find all the enlisted performance and training reports for the past 5 years, filed in chronological order with the most recent on top. Additionally, prior to the implementation of static closeout dates, you may find training reports for those senior NCOs who attended Air Force Institute of Technology. You may also find an Air Force Form 77. The Air Force Form 77 may be filed for one of 3 reasons: to document a break in service, to correct an administrative error, or to document an approved appeal action in place of the original evaluation. In the center stack, there will be any Article 15s that may have been filed by the proper authority. These remain on file for 2 years or after 1 senior NCO evaluation board. Court-martial conviction orders are also located in the center stack and are permanently filed. In the majority of cases, the first thing board members will see are citations or orders for all approved decorations organized in order of precedence. Finally, in the far right stack is the Senior NCO Evaluation Brief. This computer-generated 1-page snapshot of a Senior NCO's record tracks information such as date of rank, service dates, and duty history. Professional military education and academic education information may also be included depending on the board. Once board members are orientated to EBOS, we begin our training session, also known as a trial run exercise. The trial run exercise allows board members to see the range of quality in the records and equate members with situations they may see during live scoring. The records selected as trial run records from a previous board who are not eligible for the current board. These members have been promoted, separated, or retired. Board members score these records by secret ballot without discussion. We ask them to take lots of notes because we facilitate an open discussion afterwards to discuss why they scored a record the way they did. This crosstalk allows board members to fine-tune their individual scoring standard. The ultimate goal of the trial run exercise is consistency. A record reviewed on the first day should receive the same score if evaluated later in the board process. The scoring scale used to assess the records range from 6 to 10 in half-point increments. A 7.5 represents an average record. After scoring begins, it's almost like a library inside the boardroom as scoring. Recorders are available to answer questions about records and usually it is clarifying data on an evaluation brief or tracking down a discrepancy in the member's record. We stress the importance of taking breaks from scoring records, and we also limit scoring to 0745 to 1700 each day. Once a board goes into session, only those improved in writing are allowed in. As board members score, the Secretariat continually checks the scores given to each record to see if a significant disagreement or split occurs. A split in an enlisted evaluation board is defined as a difference of 1.5 or more points by 2 or more panel members. In this example, Seat 2 gave a 6.5 and Seat 1 gave an 8. This is a split, and the record will come back out to the panel for discussion and resolution to within 1 point. To resolve a split, all panel members are present and all other scoring stops. Panel members will review the record and can see the scores given. All panel members may discuss strengths and weaknesses in the record. However, the discussion must be based only on the information found in the record. Certified board recorders oversee every split and ensure all information shared during the split resolution remains records-based and no personal information is shared. After all panel members have discussed the record, only the panel members directly involved in the split can change their scores. We also spend a decent amount of time discussing communication rules with board members. As board members score records, some may find information viewed as important and want to share this with other members of the panel. Each board member was selected because of their individual background and the expertise they bring to the board. However, as mentioned before, all board members must vote independently and by secret ballot. We don't want one item in a record to influence an entire panel based upon one board member's perceptions. Therefore, the Secretariat asks board members to run their thoughts by one of the recorders for approval to discuss with other board members. Board members are not permitted to make contact with any outside sources to get information on an eligible member. The Air Force has promised that each person will be aware of all information that meets the board. Finally, board members are instructed to use the full scoring scale as intended and not drive splits in order to generate discussion. This goes against the spirit and intent of the process. The final task is to complete a board report before adjournment. All board members sign the board report. After the board adjourns, the board scores are released to Enlisted promotion system. The board scores are combined with their objective factors to come up with the member's overall score. The promotion quotas for each AFSC are produced by Headquarters Air Force A1. Quotas are applied to each AFSC for select run. The last selectee in each AFSC determines the cutoff score. Once the select list has been created, Enlisted Promotion conducts a 100% data verification on each record. Each record is verified to determine that the information in PRADA or ARMS matches the information that is updated in MIL-PDS. If a document is found to be missing or incorrectly updated, then the member will be placed into a withhold until the correction has been made. After data verification is finalized, the final promotion results are presented to the AFPC commander for approval. The AFPC commander will also approve the specific dates for senior rated release and public release. On or shortly after the public release, the records of those who met the board are posted to PRADA. That should be the final check of records for accuracy. If not selected, the records check after the board is important to see if supplemental consideration is an option, and we'll talk more about that on the next slide. On the public release date, we also send a scripted brief to board members and encourage them to talk about the process. Now let's talk about the supplemental board process. Senior NCO supplemental boards are convened for the following 3 reasons. When a person was erroneously coded as ineligible for a board when in fact he or she was eligible. When a person met a previous board with missing or erroneous data, or when other criteria specified in AFI 36-2502 warrants a supplemental look, such as changes to EPRs or changes to higher tenure dates. Once identified, these cases are categorized as either mandatory or optional. We'll talk about the differences between the two in the next slide. The Secretariat works with enlisted promotions to recreate the original board for the consideree. Once board members score the records, we'll know if the consideree is a select or a non-select. A senior NCO is selected if he or she outscores all minus benchmarks and ties or outscores at least one plus benchmark. We'll go over the benchmark selection later on. Those records with significant changes are referred to as mandatory review cases, all of which must be scored. Examples include records with major changes in EPRs or removal or replacement of EPRs. Professional military education completion that should have been documented at the time the original board met. An erroneous retirement date. For example, the board may have thought the member was retiring when in fact he or she was not. Original consideration in the wrong AFSC or CEM code due to reclassification or retraining. Or the individual was not considered by the original board because the record did not have a current EPR on top. Those records with less significant changes than the mandatory cases are referred to as optional review cases. Here are some examples. An individual's record included the addition of a medal that closed out prior to the promotion eligibility cutoff date, but did not get into the system on time. An airman earned the next level of academic education, but the system did not reflect it at the time of the board. Or an individual's duty title was added or changed, but it didn't get into the system on time. All optional cases are reviewed by board members to determine if the change was significant enough to warrant further promotion consideration. Voting is conducted through yes/no vote, and if the majority vote was yes, the record will be scored. Benchmark selection is crucial to the success of supplemental boards. Considerees are compared to records from the original board. This slide illustrates how to select benchmarks. In this example, we have a senior master sergeant with a 3F personnel CEM code. We know for this particular CEM code, the promotion cutoff was 500 points, meaning for that year, you needed 500 total points to get promoted. In this example, because this is after the testing cycle and public release of the central board, we know this applicant's weighted score was 105. So we subtract that from 500 and discover that he or she needs to achieve a board score of 395 points to be promoted. The 395 points equates to a board score of 26.5, which is 395 divided by 15 and rounded up. The Enlisted Promotions Office at AFPC then looks at the board's original order of merit and uses 3 records with a board score of 26.5, referred to as plus benchmarks. They also use 3 records a half point below at 26.0, referred to as the minus benchmarks. These records become the benchmark records for this case. Please keep in mind, it doesn't matter whether the benchmarks were selects or non-selects on the original board. What's important is the board member score. Let's see how this all plays out on a typical case. Using our previous example, we had 3 plus records from the original board at 26.5 and 3 minus records at 26.0 records. The considerees records will be compared against these benchmark records. The benchmarks are labeled A through F for ease of illustration. For this case, the board rescored the records as shown on the right-hand column. The order of merit changed slightly, as this tends to happen since the supplemental board members are different than the board members from the original board. Consideree number 1 is a select because he or she scored 27.0 and beat out all the minus benchmarks, D, E, and F, and beat or tied at least one of the plus benchmarks, C. But consideree 2 is a non-select because he or she did not beat all the minus benchmarks, D. One of the ways to help avoid meeting a supplemental is to ensure that your records are accurate. In fact, one of the most important messages we want to leave with you here today is the importance of records accuracy. So how does an airman ensure their records are correct while meeting the board? The best way to accomplish this is through My PERS. Once logged in, we ask that you click on View My Records. This will send you to AFPC Secure. Once you click OK, you validate your credentials. Once you're in AFPC Secure, select the Prada link. And when the Virtual Personnel Services Center populates, select the Prada button on the left. You will now see a selection folder link. Once you open your selection folder, it will contain all the documents meeting your upcoming board. If you are missing any documentation or need items updated, please work with your local MPF. It is ultimately the member's responsibility to ensure his or her records are accurate prior to meeting a board. We want to leave you with the assurance that the Air Force's promotion system is indeed extremely fair and equitable. It does, however, require you to be engaged. We encourage you and your subordinates to review your records periodically, but especially before an evaluation board. Remember, you, as eligibles and supervisors, have a significant role in the process. Please take the opportunity to speak to the board through EPRs to ensure the best qualified senior NCOs are selected to be our future leaders. Here's our contact information. It appears we have some time remaining to answer questions, so please take this opportunity to ask them, and we and our partners in Enlisted Promotions will answer them to the best of our ability. One administrative note, Captain Michael Jew from AFPC PB will be in the DC chat answering questions concurrently. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. We're gonna answer your questions live today. So if you're on Facebook Live, please type your questions in on Facebook Live. If you're on the webinar, please type your questions in. Just give us a moment and then we'll start to answer your questions.
All right, our first question from Facebook Live comes from Rob Peway. His question was, after this brief, will the slides be available to review later? And yes, they will. They'll be available for download now, as well as on the PA site. So please feel free to download those so you have access to them later if you'd like. Another question from Facebook Live comes from Chris Henning, and his question is regarding breadth of experience. What is considered and how is breadth of experience considered? The experience is part of the overall whole person concept that the Chief of the Staff, that he talks about in his formal charge. And there's various ways that board members can look at breadth of experience, everything from the evaluations to decorations, to see the experience that individual has had, both at home station and deployed. So there's not a specific formula on how breadth of experience is determined or how it affects or impacts a board score, but board members do have various ways that they can see the experience that a member has and include that in their score.
So we're going to jump over to DCS. We got a couple of questions that we got Captain Michael Jew answering. So one of the questions that Stephen Beasley from USAFE asked is, not fully qualified, is that no longer a thing? The response was correct. Not fully qualifieds have been eliminated. Promotion authorities will need to non-recommend members before and after promotion selection if advancement is not warranted. Then we also had Master Sergeant Renadete ask a question: is SEJPME supposed to show up on your DVR in the PME section? Yep. You want to answer that? Sorry.
Yes. So definitely, join PME does reflect on your DVR under the PME section. However, your DVR contains only the 3. So if you have, let's say, senior NCO, join PME first and second, NCO Academy, you want to make sure that you state which ones you want those to be reflected on your DVR, and you can do that by contacting the local education office.
Okay. There's another question from Ordway. Question is, when do splits occur during the process? Splits occur at natural breakpoints throughout the day. So what we try and do is we try and wait for natural pauses. So at the beginning of the day, if they had splits at the end of the previous day, we'll do that when they come back for lunch or at the end of the duty day. So a split just occurs based upon the flow of the board.
On Facebook Live, I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name, Dan Ripka. When will AFPC upload EPRs into Prada? Unfortunately, we are not evaluation policy and we cannot talk about that. However, we will try to get you an answer later on concerning that.
Another question from Facebook Live is from Michael Robinson. Why do we not receive a standing among non-selects when we are looked at on a supplemental? So there's a couple different reasons why that is. The first of all is that the benchmarks for a supplemental don't necessarily equate to selects or non-selects off the original board. The benchmark records that are used are only in relation to the board score that the individual that's being considered for supplemental needed in order to be selected for promotion. It doesn't take into account at all the objective factors. So the competition, if you will, of the benchmarks is not necessarily selects or non-selects from the original board.
All right, we had a question from Master Sergeant White. He asked, how are wing stratifications factored in? Response to that, wing stratifications are one of many data points considered by board members when looking at the whole person concept, which is correct. So when they're looking at wing stratification, that's just one data point. There's other things they take into consideration to include decorations. They look at your NCO evaluation brief, types of decorations, other various factors. So whole person concept, absolutely. Master Sergeant Palomares stated, local MPS states that my latest APR should be there after the freeze file date. Is that correct? The response was, if it is properly submitted via BPC, it should appear in your record. All right, we've got Latoya Cleveland from 2nd OSS. The question she asked were, why are some boards considering education and some aren't? And it's basically per the chief of staff's formal charge. Education is withheld at the Master Sergeant Board as completion, and it is not required for promotion to Master Sergeant. So as the formal charges come out and the chief's guidance changes, we make sure that the board members are aware of all these changes that are going on throughout the Air Force.
A question coming in from Facebook Live from Brian Richardson. And the question is, are board panel members in the same functional community as the records that they're reviewing? And the answer to that one is yes. So the panel consists of, is broken down into what we consider one of the four groups, if you will: medical, maintenance, ops, or support. And each one of those panels consists of a sitting or graduated group commander from that particular functional area, as well as two chiefs from that functional area as well. They'll see AFSCs or a variety of AFSCs from within their functional area. And the two chiefs will be from the two largest AFSCs in terms of number of eligibles for that particular board, will be where those two chiefs come from. And of course, the colonel will be from the particular group that the AFSCs are coming from as well.
Okay, question from Master Sergeant Reed over on DCS. He's from the 93rd AGOW. How important is it to ensure duty titles are updated? Having all factors of a member's record is highly recommended in order to present current and accurate information to the board members. All right, Master Sergeant Terrell Harden. Should SJPME and PMC be on the DVR? Are these considered PME added if they are not updated in time? Response from Captain Jew over on the DCS chat. Air Force leadership continually reviews information provided on the senior NCO evaluation brief, and they are not currently on the brief.
We had a question come in from Facebook Live. It's regarding NFQ or not fully qualified. It's been answered over on DCS, but for those on Facebook Live may not have seen the answer. So the question was, did AFPC get rid of NFQ or not fully qualified? And the answer is yes, NFQ has been eliminated. Promotion authorities will now need to non-recommend members before and after promotion selection if advancement is not warranted.
All right, back over to DCS. Senior Master Sergeant DeLion. Great presentation. Any consideration to conducting this presentation immediately after members have their most current year's results? Response from Captain Jew again. Thank you. These presentations are not tied to a specific board. We do our best to have periodic presentations throughout the year. This is correct. So Sergeant DeLion, as we give these briefings here locally, which we were able to do so, we provide updated data as they come, because as you know, changes in the Air Force occur frequently, so we want to make sure that we provide it. But each board is different, so it's kind of hard to create a specific briefing for each individual board.
Another question coming in from Facebook Live is from Dan Borowski. How much weight does a strat hold? So stratifications are an opportunity for the senior rater to basically communicate directly to board members about their perception on that particular individual's potential for promotion. However, there's no rule set, if you will, on how heavily the board members must weight that stratification within their score. So there's not a minimum or a maximum score that a record with the stratification must receive. It's up to the board member on how heavily they weight that stratification.
All right, so Master Sergeant Gleaves had a question. She asked, when is the selection folder built in Prada? Response is, records are typically posted in Prada in concurrence with the promotion release.
We have a question from Facebook Live from Brittany Banky, which says, how much influence do deployments have? So if looking at the excuse me, looking at the formal charge from the past few cycles, deployments are a factor that board members have access to take a look at through evaluations and through decorations. However, the Chief of Staff is quick to point out that different AFSCs do have different operational tempos in terms of deployments, so it's not to be considered as a pass-fail factor. However, performance at a deployed location can be an indicator of potential for promotion. However, it can't be a pass-fail item that board members look at in consideration.
All right, back over to DCS, Tech Sergeant Harley from 375 AMW. Are there any changes happening for the board in the future? Right now, we have a scoring scale. However, what about some minimal feedback? For example, not enough leadership, education, PME, not in line with peers, breadth of knowledge, minimal. In response, Air Force leadership is constantly reviewing procedures, and at this time, we have nothing publicly to announce. Additional changes are being studied at Air Staff.
So a question coming in from Facebook Live from Joseph Hare. It's regarding PME and the DVR or the Senior NCO selection brief. The question is, the board brief only lists 3 PMEs. Will the board be able to see only those 3 or all of the PMEs? So the block on the Senior NCO evaluation brief for PMEs has a maximum of 3. So 3 is the maximum number that board members will see on your Senior NCO evaluation brief.
All right, back over to DCS, Master Sergeant Stallings from Air Force District, Washington. Can you explain the optional review for supplemental again? Why are these optional? And when would voting dictate board members vote yes or no? So the response from Captain Jew again, optional reviews are for records with less significant changes than mandatory cases, and we do have that on the slides for review. And then Daniel Smith from the Air Force Security Forces Center. Are all strats viewed in the same, or do sister service strats have more or less weight? All stratifications, sister service and Air Force, are one of the many data points reviewed and taken into account when looking at the whole person concept. So we're going back to this whole question that the audience wants to know about stratification. Sounds like that's really important to you guys. But at the end of the day, we bring in board members with various backgrounds and experiences, and we rely on them to make a determination based upon their experiences on how heavily they weigh stratifications. There is no guidance in the Chief's formal charge in reference to that.
Question coming in from Facebook Live from Raul Garcia says, does having a retirement date have a negative effect or impact on the board score? So according to the Chief's formal charge from the last few cycles, retirement dates, approved retirement dates are visible on the Senior NCO evaluation brief. However, board members are told from the Chief of the Staff that it is not something that they should take into consideration. And the reason being, if an individual is selected for promotion, they do have the opportunity to withdraw their retirement and continue on in service.
All right, another question from on the DCS from Master Sergeant Randolph over at the 711. It says, do board members have visibility in the option to review EPRs beyond 5 years? They do not.
Another question from Facebook Live from Caller Brown. We're not answering any EPR questions. However, should I be concerned now that my last EPR, which closed out on 30 September, is not in Prada yet? We would highly recommend that you get with your local MPF and have them open a My Purse ticket and get that sent in to find out the status, please. Thank you.
All right, Master Sergeant Harden again. Is there any emphasis on stratification in joint assignments compared to traditional wing assignments? The Chief's charge addresses the importance of professional development to include joint assignments. Stratifications from any source are one of the many data points reviewed by board members when looking at the whole person concept. All right. Look at Master Sergeant Avery. Are packages randomly distributed for the board, or do they see packages that have stratification EPRs on top first and then packages with EPRs without? As stated from the slides, EPRs are sorted in chronological order with the most recent on top, and packages are distributed by AFSC in a random order.
All right, we received also a question from Joseph Hare. What if they say they are unable to update the 3 PMEs that are shown? I'm assuming this is if your local education office is unable to update your PMEs. You're more than welcome to contact AFPC Enlisted Promotions. That number is DSN 665.
And it's on their contact line.
2362, yes.
A question coming in on Facebook Live from Raina Blake says, how much time on average is spent reviewing each eligible record? It really does depend on the board member as well as the record that's being reviewed. There's no minimum or maximum time that a board member must or can spend on any record. It's really up to them to make the determination on how much time they need to look through that member's record to make the determination on the correct score to give. Another question on Facebook Live, this one coming in from Brady McCoy. And the question is there a place or product that exists for general observations or record feedback from board members after a board? So in other words, how to get direct feedback on your record after you meet a board. So board members don't provide that information directly to the individual or to the eligible meeting the board. And even after board results are released, board members are not able to or authorized to discuss specific records that they've reviewed or discussions that they had within the boardroom. We always recommend that prior to the board, sitting down with one of your trusted senior enlisted leaders or others from your career field and talking with them about your records, but it's not something that board members would discuss directly with the members, even after boards are publicly released.
Okay. Okay.
So another question coming in from Facebook Live is from Dan Powers. And the question is, what functional areas are used to represent special duty career field boards? So our special duties or our DSDs fall under the support panel for our panel concept. And assuming that one of the special duties is one of the largest AFSCs represented on that panel, there will be a chief from one of those special duty AFSCs represented on the panel. If it is one of the 2 largest AFSCs being considered by that panel. But long story short, DSDs are considered under the support panels.
All right, back over to DCS. Stephen Beasley from USAFE App Africa. Does the chief of staff charge give more emphasis or more points to those promoting in or coming out of DSD? The chief of staff of the Air Force provides guidance within the formal charge, valuing professional development, including DSD assignments, but he doesn't designate whether to give them more points or not. Nowhere in the chief's formal charge does he state you need to give more points to these individuals. It goes back again to what we've been saying. It's the whole person factor. It's definitely something that's going to round out your breadth of experience, and it's something that the Air Force is looking for. So it definitely does help.
And that same answer would hold true for another question that we're taking a look at from Facebook Live. This one coming in from Caitlin Alexander. How do joint assignments rank within the board? So joint assignments are something addressed by the Chief of Staff in the formal charge, and recognizing that there's value from the joint environment and from working in a joint position. However, there's no specific designation or weight that board members are required to place on that joint assignment.
All right. All right, so a question from Brandon Kaufman from the 52nd CES. Has there been any consideration to reduce the period of EPRs that board members review, for instance, 5 years to 3 years? Air staff is constantly reviewing the evaluation promotion process to include what documents are visible to board members. But at this time, we have no indication of the period of EPRs will be reduced from 3 to 5. So that's more of a policy question. So here at the boardroom and Enlisted Promotions, we don't deal with policy or future changes. And we try not to spread rumors, because sometimes things happen and things don't happen. So thank you for that question, Brandon. Okay. So another question on the DCS from Latoya Cleveland from the 2nd OSS. How much weight do the markings on an EPR have on the member's board score? Since they are subjective, if the bullets conflict, they are stronger than the markings. With markings, which area does the board member focus on more? All right. Each board member reviews and assesses markings and comments on EPRs independently. They are instructed to utilize those data points, among other things, to review the whole person concept. All right, another question about potential changes is WAPS from Master Sergeant Klaas. Is WAPS testing going away for senior NCOs? WAPS testing is among other policies that are consistently being reviewed by air staff. And as stated previously, once they make it official, but until then, it's just basically hearsay. All right, question from Steve Lovato from 86DS. Can we see last year's Chief of Staff formal charges? So all the formal charges are posted almost immediately after each results are released. So you can go out there into the MyPers. If you want to download the slides, we've provided instructions on how to look for the most current Chief's formal charge.
Taking another question from Facebook Live, this one coming in from Clinton Hammonds. His question is, does the charge specify which bullets board members are supposed to focus on or read? In other words, are they only supposed to look at the first bullet on the front and all the bullets on the back? The charge doesn't specify anything in terms of the particular bullets that board members are supposed to focus on. The formal charge more gives a general guidelines from the Chief of Staff on what he values for the Air Force, what he believes are important for individuals being considered for promotion, different experiences, things along those lines. It doesn't dictate particular areas within the EPR that board members should be focusing on.
All right. So we've gone ahead and there's been a lot of questions about the Chief's formal charge. A lot of folks asking questions. So if you want to go ahead, we've loaded the slide where it states where you guys can find it. So if you just go into MyPers at the top right corner, active duty Air Force Enlisted, you just type in formal charge, and that'll pull up the most current formal charges for you to review.
So we had a question come in on DCS that our Facebook Live audience is not going to be able to see. So I'm going to go ahead and answer that question as well for them. And the question is, are the packages randomly distributed for the board, or do they see packages that have a stratification EPR on top first and then packages without the EPR after that? So the way that the records are distributed is done in a random way. So board members will receive all the packages or all the records from a single AFSC at the same time. However, the order that they're flowed out is in reverse Social Security number. So in other words, there's the stratifications can fall at anywhere within that. The sequencing of the records being flowed to the panel is all based on reverse Social Security number to help completely randomize that process.
All right, we got a question from Master Sergeant Ordway from 52nd SOW. He asked, what happens if the selection folder and product contains all the EPRs? So there's two different folders that you're going to want to pay attention to. So selection folder is potentially what the board is going to see, and it will contain all of your evaluations, but the board will only see the previous 5 years. So once a board has adjourned, shortly after, there'll be another folder that populates in product called As Met. And if you're a non-select, we recommend you go in there and make sure that everything in there is current and accurate. So the As Met folder should only have the last 5 years EPRs.
All right, so we have another question from Facebook from Nakisha Renee regarding the freeze file date. So file freeze date is different from every board, of course, and we send in a message. We post a message to my purse 14 days prior to that file freeze, just to let MPF and members know that that's the date before the board.
All right, question from Daniel Smith. Can you explain a little bit about how the board brief is populated by the SURF? Selection brief pulls items directly from MIL PDS.
A question coming in from Facebook Live, this one from Jeremy Paul. The question is, do board members see previous year's board scores for individuals? No, they don't. Board members will not see the individual's previous year's board scores. They also will not see your objective scores as well. So in other words, they won't see how you did on those testing portions of the promotion process. The board looks at your record independently without prior year or objective factor information.
All right, Christopher Palmares from UCOM says, so it stated that it was up to the board members to score via the whole person concept, which included education, training, and primary duty, but I thought I heard it was up to the board if they wanted to look at education. So we're talking about education, we're talking about professional military education, not off-duty civilian education. So those were the differences between the two. All right, got a question from Senior Master Sergeant Ladd over on the DCS. Will the testing portion ever be electronic and provide instant feedback on how a tester did on the test? Unfortunately, we don't deal with testing the objective factors, the WOPS testing, so we don't have any further input on if it's going to ever be electronic.
On Facebook Live, we had a question come in from Chris Henning, and the question is prior service experience considered? How, if not in the SURF, or why not? So the board does see the last 5 years worth of evaluation performance reports. They would not see the evaluation reports from a sister service. They would be able to see decorations from a sister service, but they also would not see your duty history from the sister service. So they can get glimpses into your prior service experiences through those decorations, but in terms of specific duty history and whatnot, it is not included as part of your selection record.
All right. So it looks like, at least on the DCS side, it looks like we're caught up with answering questions. But if for some reason we missed your question, and we just haven't got to it, if you could please retype it again so we can make sure that we try to get everybody's questions answered that we can on the DCS side.
Okay, we'll continue for maybe a few more minutes, maybe a few more questions. Just another reminder to everybody, we have another webinar this afternoon, don't we? And it's 16:30 Central Time, 17:30 Eastern Time. So if you or your office members, other people want to join us, please remind them we have another webcast today at 16:30 Central Time, 17:30 Eastern Time, and you can join us again today. Same webcast, same Q&A session as we did this morning.
And we'll take one final question from Facebook Live, this one coming from Michael Johnson. His question is, does the board have fact sheets for the different types of units their AFSC support? Some of us are not in our pipeline career position, and I wonder what level of knowledge the board has in unique positions available to some of us. So it's in reference to a panel which consists of the colonel and the chief, the two chiefs from the two largest AFSCs, and how much knowledge or expertise may they have on those other AFSCs that they're scoring. So once again, they are all from the same umbrella, if you will. So maintenance chiefs will be scoring AFSCs from the maintenance umbrella. So that does help with some familiarity. A few other ways that that board members can get the information that they need to accurately score a record is if there's a board member, another board member within the board that may have some more intimate knowledge. We as recorders can help facilitate a conversation, not about a specific record, but more about a generality of that career field to help ensure that board members are comfortable and have understanding about that career field. And of course, part of our role as recorders as well is if a board member asks some general question about a career field, we'll provide them with that information. So for example, if there's a functional specific award that a record has within it that the board member isn't familiar with, we as recorders will find the information about that award, provide that to the board members so that they're comfortable with that information and can assign an accurate score to that record.
Well, everyone, thank you for joining us today. We're going to sign out. I'd like to thank the Promotion Board Secretariat here at AFPC for doing the webinar today. We're doing another one later on today. Thank you for joining us. You can all disconnect your audio now. AFPC out. Thank you.